Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be continuing on with the Judicial System podcast for HHS. And so we're going to continue on in our investigation of the U.S. federal court system. Now, we left off with the criteria for nominating a Supreme Court justice, and now we're going to uncover the confirmation process of a Supreme Court justice nominee. Now, a series of investigations are led by various organizations in which they check the background of a Supreme Court nominee. Investigations are led by the FBI. The FBI looks into the criminal background and things of more criminal matter of a Supreme Court nominee to make sure that they are lawful and they do follow the nation's laws. Furthermore, the Senate Judiciary Committee also performs a series of investigations. The Senate Judiciary Committee is a group of members from the Senate which ask a series of questions of the nominee in order to make certain that they are capable and have the skills and abilities to meet the needs of the U.S. citizens. Furthermore, interest groups are also part of the investigation process of Supreme Justice nominees. Interest groups want to make certain that their needs and their opinions are also met by a representative for the U.S. government. And last but not least, the American Bar Association performs a series of investigation to make certain that, again, the Supreme Court nominee meets those lawful credentials in knowing the law and having background in law in order to make the best decisions for the larger society. So again, the Senate Judiciary Committee conducts the hearing and the actual voting for confirming the Supreme Court Justice nominee. So once a Supreme Court Justice nominee is thus nominated by the President and then confirmed by the Senate, they can officially take over as a Justice of the Supreme Court. So once they are a Justice, how long can they serve? The term of a Supreme Justice is for life, unless they retire or are impeached for not maintaining good behavior. And this requirement or this criteria is actually outlined in the Constitution and is the only official requirement or criteria of a Supreme Justice. So let's take a look at the Supreme Court. So what I have displayed here on your screen is a virtual tour found online at the web address above of a virtual tour of the actual Supreme Court. So as you can see here on the left, there is a navigation screen where you can click on a series of portals of where you'd like to tour the Supreme Court. So if you click here on the top steps, the tour will take you to the top steps of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful gold doors. And so if you'd like to go further into the Supreme Court, you could click, for example, the courtroom. You can click here again to go into the courtroom entry. Waiting for it to load. There we go. And this is the actual courtroom of the Supreme Court. And again, it can take you to several different locations. If you'd like to tour the Supreme Court, you are more than welcome to. And so if you click on the middle button here, it will take you to the Justices' conference room. If you click on the arrow here, it will actually minimize the navigation screen if you want to take a further look at the Justice room. And this is where the Supreme Justices meet to make a decision and vote upon a court case. It's kind of interesting when they all meet and discuss a case or court issue. And the virtual tour can actually also take you to some of the justices' offices. So let's go to Ruth Bader Ginsburg chamber, or her office. So we'll click here again to go to her chamber. And what you can see here is the Supreme Justice's office. There's a lot of books here, some writing room, her desk, and so on and so forth. And again, what you can do is you can click on these little green boxes and it'll show you things found in the Supreme Justice's room. So here is a picture displayed in the Justice room. So if you want to just take a gander and look through the Supreme Court, you are more than welcome to. We have a virtual tour available. So here again is the web address if you are interested in taking the virtual tour, or if you're interested in maybe just some fun facts about the Supreme Justices. Here is another link that will guide you to some interesting facts if you are interested. But let's continue on with the lecture. So I earlier mentioned the process in which you can get a case on the Supreme Court list of cases which they review, which is known as a docket. So let's say that you would like your case to be heard by the Supreme Court, and you petition the Supreme Court by sending them a brief, and your case makes it to the docket. And that means that your case will be heard by the Supreme Court. And this is the procedure in which a case is actually heard by the Supreme Court. The first process in hearing a case includes oral arguments. Each side has 30 minutes to argue their side of the case. Supreme Court justices also ask questions about the case, but again, remember, they have a little bit of background about the case after reading the briefs, which are part of the petition process. So after each side has provided their argument for 30 minutes, the Supreme Justices conference in that room, which I showed you during the tour, to discuss the case. During the conferences, the justices meet in confidence to talk about the case. Speaking is an order of seniority, and the Chief Justice presides over the conference. During this conference, the Chief Justices also vote on a decision. The majority vote wins. That means at least 5 to 4 must win in order to make a decision, or majority win. After making a decision, a writing of opinions must also occur during a Supreme Court case. A writing of the opinions is a written explanation of a Supreme Court case. There are a series of opinions that can be wrote during this time. The first being the majority opinion. Majority opinion includes the decisions expressing the views of the majority of the justices. Furthermore, other opinions can also be included during a Supreme Court decision. Dissenting opinions are decisions expressing the views of the minority of justices, while concurring opinions are opinions filed by a judge that agree with the majority or the plurality opinion on the case, but bases their conclusions on different reasons or on a different view of the case. What this means in a concurring opinion is that someone is part of the majority, but may have further explanation for the majority's opinions. So why do justices make certain decisions? First, justices make decisions based on judicial philosophy. In part of this judicial philosophy, they use their judicial activism. As justices, they have a particular policy position, and in that policy position, they may make decisions in order to further their policies or their opinions or ideas about society. Furthermore, a justice may use judicial restraint. This means that, as non-elected officials, some justices feel that they should adequately support and provide a means for the larger society. So they try to stay away from making new policies that may not fully advance the larger society. Again, they are one of the only non-elected officials of our government. Therefore, they must remember to represent the society as a whole. Furthermore, justices also make decisions based on precedents. Precedence is using prior decisions to determine the outcome of a current case. An example of this would be Plessy v. Ferguson and Brown v. Board of Education. In Brown v. Board of Education, the Supreme Court justices used the ruling of Plessy v. Ferguson to decide whether separate but equal should continue on in our society. The Supreme Court justice decided that in the larger society at that time, separate but equal was no longer applicable to the U.S. Therefore, they thought that separate but equal should be overruled and that all citizens should deserve an equal opportunity. that is all we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed the podcast on the judicial system. And until next time, have a great day.